If you were married to a very wealthy man who told you that you never had to work or lift a finger because everything is taken care of, he just wants you to focus on raising the children and managing the home, how would that make you feel?
I actually just had this happen to me not that long ago, and he did tell me that, and I said, that's really nice, but I'm still going to work.
Yeah,
Okay.
I had that happen. I declined.
Okay.
I don't think it's realistic to be a trad wife for everyone. I mean, most of America who's just running on one income, like married couples, are living very close to the poverty line. And so
I'm
I feel
thinking
like you
this
are
is
all
the
coming
side
from
with the
maybe a
traditional
very,
wives.
Different side of the coin. But if you were to go to most states or even other countries, if it's two parents and only one is working, like the family is suffering.
I'm gonna hardcore disagree on that because I think specifically in the U.S. we have
those
this,
are the boss babes
this
over
like
there.
just obsession with material things. Like every single family needs 2 cars. We need a $500,000 home. We need to buy certain food. We need designer bags, right? But when you live well below your means, you can have that life. A lot of women will ask me, they're like, how did you become a stay-at-home wife at such a young age? I'm 19. If you saw how much money we make, it's not like, I'm not privileged. I don't have a huge home. We rent, we have 1 car, we stick to an extreme budget, but the lifestyle I live is so worth that. And when I have kids, we're gonna be financially set up for me to be a stay-at-home mom and take care of those children.
Welcome back. This is your boy Juice, and this is the Squeeze podcast. Today, we're going to be taking a deep dive on another big topic that we have here on the Squeeze podcast, and that is dating and relationships. And today, we're going to take a deep dive on what it is to be a traditional wife or a boss babe. And as we get into it, we're going to see 2 sides of the coin and how they navigate their lives and how it's relevant today. Because if you're out here and you're dating, much like myself, you have to go through all the trials and tribulations. And a lot of people want to say that America's cooked, but let's see what the examples in this video had to say. And luckily, we have a group of sisters.
2 lifestyles, 2 different definitions of
Oh, it ain't even
fulfillment.
got the
Today,
lady doing
Trad
this.
Wives
She's
and
pregnant.
Boss
That's
Babes
dope.
sit down to explore
That's dope.
womanhood, ambition, fulfillment, family, and identity. Are these choices in conflict? Bridge
reason-
between tradition.
Now listen, the reason why this video in particular will be so important is because marriage is falling in today's society. I know if you watch my last video with Jordan Peterson, which I will link right up here, you kind of know that we are in a state where we need to do something to make it work. And for real, Kevin Samuels had us on the right path, and let's find a way back onto the right way to make this thing work.
And modern empowerment.
So I was
I'm your
wrong too.
host,
Those were the
Dr.
boss
Michelle
babes on
Zapp.
the other side.
Let's get
And they
into
didn't
it.
sound like they was about to
And
get
welcome.
married. They're attractive, but nah. This young lady is full blown pregnant. Kudos to her. Shout out to her. Full pregnant and still doing the work.
Hi, my name is Sierra, and I identify as a boss babe.
Sierra.
My name is Val, and I identify as a boss
Is that
babe.
the real Sierra?
Hi everyone, I'm Shanice and I'm a boss babe.
I feel like
Hi, I'm Ivy,
2 of them
and
were on
I'm
TV.
a trad wife.
Okay,
Hi,
Ivy.
I'm Savannah, and I'm a trad wife.
Okay,
Hi,
Savannah.
I'm Jada, and I'm a trad wife.
Thank you,
Okay.
ladies, for being here today. The first prompt is
I should have
a
noticed
woman's
by the way they
highest
dress.
calling is to be a wife and a mother.
I think I agree.
Okay.
Me personally, I just feel like motherhood and being a wife is something that is unique to women. So I don't necessarily see it as a sacrifice, I think, the way a lot of people do. I see it just as a privilege and as a wonderful, unique opportunity.
And I would like to explain my reasoning too. The reason I feel this way is because today we don't boil things down enough to their simplest terms. For me as a man, it is to provide for a family, to be able to conquer the world in the way I see fit. Not to say I need to conquer the world per se, but I want to gain recognition for the things and achievements that I wish to garner. It's very simple. We try to make things so complicated because we have technology now, but life isn't that complicated. At the end of the day, what really makes you happy is very simple. You like cheesecake, simple. It's simple things. Like we try to overcomplicate the most simplest things, and life is not that complicated.
Thank you.
I think it's something biological that a lot of women try to fight, but I think there's a way to incorporate being a mom and being a wife into your life, but it just doesn't have to be your only thing in life.
I definitely think that being a mother, particularly, and being a wife, but particularly being a mother, is definitely something that only a woman can do.
See, what I don't like when these questions are asked is how you interpret them. When it's a very direct question, it's like, the only thing. Nobody said the only thing. And you were for it, so it's very questionable how you really perceive what the question is. But I'm going to let her rock, just next young lady.
And it's so amazing. And I think that it's probably one of the most fulfilling things and most beautiful things. But I think for those people who perhaps can't have kids, I think, in short, I'll say we all have our own destiny and our own calling in life. So saying it's a highest calling, I don't agree with that, but I do think that it's something so unique to women. It's one of the things that makes us so amazing. Yeah.
So right here is where a lot of the word salad will come in. If you watch any other podcasts and stuff like that, you convolute what the question is talking about people with complications. And I mean, look, everybody is not at that standpoint, but just like, again, we talked about, are we lying to ourselves, making ourselves wait until the very last moment, hoping for something instead of taking advantage of the time and the actual bodily functions that we have as human beings, because we do not live forever. A lot of people will make you feel like you have so much time in your life. There's an eventual clock where things start to stop working. Your knees, your back maybe, hips, they all start coming and going.
I will agree with her. I think it is one of the highest callings. I'm a Christian, and I believe that the highest calling is to be just a servant for the Lord. And I think being a mother and a wife is a very selfless act. But just because I kind of agree with like Paul, not everybody's called to be a mother, not everybody's called to be a wife, and because some people cannot have children, I do think God has a beautiful calling for them. So that's the only reason why I didn't agree fully.
Yeah, thank you. Would you want your daughter, let's say you had a daughter, would you want your daughter to follow in your lifestyle, the path that you chose? Whether you're traditional wife or your boss babe, would you want your daughter to follow your
This one
footsteps?
here is a good
I
question.
would say yes. I would want my daughter to follow in my footsteps or the path that I'm on, but not because of what I do, but I think who I am, which would mean I love that I have freedom, and I love that I have choice, and I love that I wake up every day trying to be my best self. So in that regard, I would want my child to wake up doing what she wants, what she desires, having the freedom and safety to do that, and just enjoying herself along her journey.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have a 10-year-old daughter, and she's growing up watching me in a completely different way than I watched my mom growing up, where she completely sacrificed everything for us. She went to every single game and did PTA, and she had no time for herself, no time to work out, no time to be healthy. And so I felt like that gave me a really negative picture of what like a stay-at-home traditional mom wife is, like way too self-sacrificing. And she did take it to the extreme. But I would much rather have my daughter doing like me, where she's, finding her way and she's helping other women through working and, like trying to make a better world for women versus just trying to, raise a family, which is a high calling, but it just feels like a very, I don't know, like pigeonholed mission.
Rather than help raise a family, how do you think you are going to produce other little girls if you don't create proper homes to support the young ladies?
Restrictive. Did you see your mom like in any way upset about the choice that she made or suffer from the choices that she made, or did she seem happy doing those things even if you saw it in a different light?
She was really happy to be a mom, super happy. But I think she also sacrificed a lot for my dad, and that took a lot out of her. Like, she was also his caretaker. And for me, being a caretaker for like a grown man, that was the opposite of what I wanted to do. And I think even now, currently I'm like, oh, I could not be a caretaker for a grown man.
But it was her husband.
Really crazy that, yeah, you see how the host brought it all the way back. That was her husband. But you probably, and I'm not trying to go, you probably don't even have a husband because you're disgusted by the idea of satisfying your man, but probably want to be satisfied to the umpteenth degree. And this is why it's so hard today for men to want to marry if the only thing that they get at the end of the line is somebody who adds on to the work that they have to do.
It was her husband, but it felt like her fifth child.
Okay. Thank you.
I would like my daughter to know that whatever path she chooses, if she wants to be a wife and mother and make that her priority, or if she wants to be a boss babe and make that her priority, I would like her to know that those are equally important, and actually being a wife and mother is more important because you're raising the next generation. But I think in society we're told that our roles are not as important as your roles. So I would just like her to know that it's okay to want to be a wife and mother and just do that and not have a career.
So we have a little second. So I think we're gonna have a little bit of pushback. Listen, you can have many hats, but to optimize, simply as we were saying in our last video, talking about dating relationships, if you start early, you have the opportunity. It's like work experience. If you start early, you have the ability to start in other places. You have worked, 5 years at this job, you can switch to something else. But the older you get, the less likely you are to learn new skills. And believe me, parenthood is already a grip you don't want to be at the end of your life trying to gain skills that will be hard for you to learn when your body is at the end of its road. It doesn't make sense, you guys.
Totally understand why you say in society it's made to seem like being a boss babe is more important than being a stay-at-home mom, at least in some aspects of Western society now. Like that's the zeitgeist. But it's interesting because when I was growing up in the 90s, it was like the opposite. And it was like, you need to find love and a man's gonna save you. I mean, look at the movies that we watch, right, as kids. And so...
No, it wasn't even like that then.
And there's also, I feel like, a lot of people cosplaying as boss babes. Like my definition of what it means to be a boss babe is probably different than most, and I'll share that later at some point probably. But I do think that for me personally, I would want my daughter to find herself instead of be looking for love like I was when I was younger, because I feel like now who I am, I know who I am so I can find a better partner,
But do you have love? The question now is, do you have love? You can find a better partner. What's the better partner that you would obtain at this point? That's the real question. And like you're saying vague things. You would find a better partner. What's the better partner that you would find?
The trad wives, how do you view women who intentionally choose to stay single or child-free intentionally?
For me personally, I've never looked down, or I've never wanted to shame anyone who lives differently than me, but I kind of see it like a story and like a really important chapter in a story that can help you kind of find who you really are and give a lot of just value to your life. I think being married, being a mom is just like an important chapter, and so for a lot of people to skip reading that chapter, I just would encourage them to try to read that chapter because it might contribute a lot more than you think to your entire life. But I've never thought of them as any less at all, or judge them or wanted them to feel bad, because I've known a lot of women who are amazing women who are boss babes who don't have children and they don't want them. But I would just, like I said, I just feel like there's something that they're missing out on.
Do you ever feel the opposite? Like maybe you might feel a little envious of them because they can just go to the gym and do what they want and go where they want whenever they want. Let's say you were having a conversation with a cousin.
Well, how could they go wherever they want, whenever they want, if they're being a boss babe? You can't do whatever you want. Like, you have to have a structured life if you're being a successful person. There's no way you're just doing whatever. Like, even myself, I don't do whatever I want. Like, I have to schedule it. People want to go hang out with me. Hell no. If it ain't on the time frame, I'll be like, look, I got about 1 or 2 hours right here this day. If you can't make it, it's not happening. And that's really doing the due diligence. If you're very laxed, believe me, you're not a successful person. You got to be at this stuff every single day, fighting hard for what you want.
At Thanksgiving, and she's like, girl, that's why I don't have kids. See, I can do this and that. Do you ever feel like, wow, that's kind of nice too?
And not to, and that's the code switching that they would reference on other podcasts, is saying that, you know, because the best way I could put it, right? I wouldn't come to any happy home. I have sisters and brothers and extended family, you know, people who I call brother and sister who are married. It's absolutely no day in the world that I'm going to go in front of them and be like, well, you know, I get to do this and that and y'all don't get to do that. No, man, because I am happy that they have found love, that they are happy with each other. But to make a remark like, oh, well, I get to go, all of that, that's jealousy, honestly, because I have to go XYZ place to find a semblance of the love that you have at home, that you get to come home to every day. Oh, but I get to go to Jamaica. We get to turn up, and then I'm going to throw it back a couple times. And then what? You go back home, and then you're miserable the next 6 months until the next vacation.
There's like little moments where I'm like, it would be nice to have a little more quiet time, but that's about it. I've never truly felt like I wish I had the other lifestyle.
When I was working full-time, I could do way less than what I do now. Now,
Exactly.
I mean, and I don't have kids, so I can't speak on that aspect, but being a wife, I can go to the gym at 9 a.m. Like, I can go grab a coffee after. I can kind of control my day, whereas when I had a full-time job, I couldn't do those things. So to me right now, this life gives me more freedom.
Did you ever feel bored doing that? Because
part.
I did that at one point, and I was starting to feel bored.
I did too.
I just immerse myself in hobbies, honestly, which has been so amazing because I picked back up sign language, which I learned in high school, so I've been able to
See,
pick that up.
you have to
I make
just know what you're
most of
gonna
my
do with
food
your
from
life.
scratch. The house is always clean, which is nice, which will change probably when I have kids, but I've just really picked up hobbies and honestly just focusing on taking care of my husband and our home.
W. Savannah,
How do you
dog.
define yourself as a boss babe? Like, what does that mean to you? I know, Sierra, you talked a little bit about how your
I just like the way
definition might be
she's
different than
talking,
someone
not
else's. So I do want to hear from you.
Y'all,
Yeah.
y'all weirdos.
For sure, I'll keep it pretty short so other folks can share it. I want to hear what they have to say too. Like yourself, I don't knock anyone for having an opposite choice. For me, being a boss babe means I don't think that it's a matter of like showing all the stuff that you have and it's glamorous all the time. Like, yes, I work hard, so I like to feel good, I like to treat myself, but all of that is part of the system and the mechanism to keep me growing, to keep me developing. A real entrepreneur, male or female, you might go broke making sure everything gets done. You might be the first one there and the last one to leave, you know? And so I think that when I said like people cosplay being a boss babe, and I also think sometimes there is this like unhidden thing, especially with social media, like it's like
Unhidden or
implied to
hidden?
make other people feel bad about if they have a different choice. And I'm just not on that kind of time. I think that for me, I was like yourself in a situation where I had everything paid for and I personally wasn't happy. You know, that was my situation. Great partner, but I wasn't fulfilled. I wasn't pursuing what I wanted to do. And so I think for me in particular, what makes me a boss babe is that I chose to leave that. I didn't take anything because that person's amazing, didn't feel the need to, and I set out on my own path. And now I'm doing impactful work that makes the world better and makes me happy. And so I think
Before she gets to her, I think the better question is, why couldn't you achieve that within the relationship? I don't think that any partner that actually loves you would hinder you from being the person that you feel like you want to be, but everybody's mindset is on these different scales. But at the end of the day, if this is the Sierra that I'm thinking it is, she don't got a lot of time to like have the kids and the family that she wants to have if she's waited this long. But I don't know what she really wanted. And in my mind, I don't want to waste no time playing around. How about you?
being a servant to others and not doing it for flash or show, that is just a side effect. I think that that's what makes me a boss babe.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think a boss babe is building things for other people. I'm really interested in helping women. We've had so many companies built by men for hundreds of years, but women need to build things to serve other women. And so that's why I feel like I work, because I have had the opportunity and have been a trad wife. And I was like, I could do this forever, but I feel like there's companies that need to be made. I also feel like education is really important. Like, women need to be really educated. And I also feel like being a boss babe for me is just being able to make decisions for my own financial future, with like investing, real estate, things like that, which I've been able to now do on my own. And I previously thought that I had to do that with a partner. I never thought I could afford to do those things on my own. And it doesn't mean being flashy or like showing up in a G-Wagon, because I do not drive a G-Wagon. It's more about just building a solid future, whether I'm in a partnership or not.
So pretty much what this lady here in the middle is saying is she doesn't want to rely on anybody because she wants to feel secure with being able to handle absolutely everything on her own. And just like with this whole streaming thing, anything that really succeeds, you can't do it alone. I don't know where this group of we have to keep it sexualized, because anything segregated also doesn't succeed. We've seen that happen very much in many places. You have to allow somebody in, but it just seems like this side over here is very anti-men more so than trying to be, with them. And it's to be a boss babe. Do you have to be against men? Let me know.
Thank you. What about you, Ann?
They said so many things that I also relate to and agree with. I think for me, the boss babe piece that I resonate with the most is, like you said, entrepreneurship and self-sufficiency, not necessarily independence, because I know I can't do everything by myself, and nor do I want to. I'm also in a new space where I am asking for help and I am like relying on other people as well, which is also important. So it's not doing everything yourself, but I do agree that it's also creating doors, opportunities for other people, whether it be our family, our friends, our future generations of women or men that come through our bloodline. And I also want to add that it's also about like self-fulfillment and like the prophecy of your own life, like what you are called to do, what you are meant to, leave on the earth before we leave. I think that's also a part of being a boss babe, just contributing more to the ecosystem of humanity.
Thank you. So we talked
These
a
are
little
so
bit
vague
with the
ass
wives about
answers.
their role,
But she did
how
step
do you
onto
see
the
that?
one point that I wanted to say was that you can't do it all alone. And it seemed like she's getting to the point where she knows that you do need to rely on somebody. And it's better to rely on people that actually know and love you rather than just strangers who are getting a check from you. Because just because they're getting paid by you don't mean they won't steal from you.
Do you believe that women who prioritize marriage and motherhood are limiting themselves as you talk about wanting to contribute to the world and fulfill your purpose in this way where you're opening doors? Do you feel
That's a
like
good question.
not them, but women who choose this lifestyle are limiting themselves?
Do y'all
I
feel
don't think
like
that choosing to be a trad wife is limiting yourself, as long as you have an out, right? Like, as long as you know that if this marriage failed, which is a 50% chance, then you would still have an
50%
education or maybe some type of work experience or some type of, maybe you turn your hobby into something that you can make money off of one day. Like, I remember when I was a stay-at-home mom, I was like, okay, well, we have this guest house, I'll do Airbnb and I'll like sell things on eBay. Like, I always made sure that I had my own on the side. So, I mean, I think do whatever you want to do in your relationships, but just don't become completely financially dependent on someone. There's a 50% chance it could end. And even like me, who had everything on the outset, living in Malibu, whatever, when I chose to leave the relationship, all my credit cards were cut off. So, yeah.
Can I comment on that? So I used to be a boss babe. I owned businesses and everything, and I did have that mindset in my marriage.
Hold on. I just want to make one comment because she popped in perfectly in time, but you expected your credit cards from a relationship you left to stay on. That's the crazy thing too. Like, listen, As much as y'all want something afterwards, to me, once a relationship is done, we're done. You don't get to choose to leave me and expect me to still do for you unless you have become my baby mother. And at that point, I will literally give to my children and to you so you don't have to worry. But at the same time, you're not going to cheat me out of my cash just because you're mad. You feel what I'm saying? And luckily for me, I ain't out here making illegitimate kids. Because if you're going to be down with me, we got to be down for real. Like, I'm not playing this, oh, we did that and, oh, you got a kid over there? Absolutely not. Never in all of the 1,000, no, never.
But that was what was causing me to not want to work through hard issues, was because I had an escape route out. So it was, I get it, because there are cases of abuse, right? But 50% that are leaving is because people aren't working through hard issues anymore. You can just leave. I know multiple women, more women who leave because I just wasn't happy. My emotional needs weren't met. But I think what we're doing, because we're still, well, I will speak for myself. As a wife, I still have those skills. I just put it into my marriage. I help him. I'm like his assistant. Like, the reason why he can go is because I'm the one making the phone calls and making sure he's good. But my investment isn't into myself anymore. It's into my family. And he's just going to be my number one priority. My family is my number one priority, whereas other people are investing that they're their number one priority. And that's just, I think, the difference is that I'm going to put him and
what she's saying is it's selfish, and this is why people aren't succeeding today. This is why schools are failing. This is why so many things are in disarray. Because guess what? If you have a good family, you could be the parent that goes to those PTA meetings. You could be the one that understands why their teachers are going around sleeping with little boys now. You would understand why so many kids are bringing guns to school. But the problem that we have right now is so many people are always wrapped up about their self. And then the moment that they do have kids, and I'm not trying to say anything about you single mothers, but this is where it comes in. You understand that now somebody's life depends on you. And you should have been thinking about that before you created them, because once they have somebody to depend on, because it's not just you, you make it so inwards to yourself, you have to think about it. Somebody made them with you. And I'm not talking for any deadbeat dads that's out there, but at the same time, are you allowing them to be the father that they could be? Or are you fighting them because you don't feel it today? The biggest thing to understand here is, what are you going to get long-term by a simple feeling? The thing is, do you want that true empire? Think about it like this. How many empires are done alone? If we look at it, the mob, families. Presidencies, families. You got the Trump and all his family members, even Biden, his dirty son. All the positions of power come from good families. Let's get it together, y'all. I'm going to let her rock.
my family first and my skills to that, and then myself second. And that's what I chose to do.
The next prompt is, financial independence is essential for a woman's safety and self-respect.
Wow.
Just to piggyback
I
off of-
like how they are completely divided on this particular topic.
Of kind of what both of you guys were saying in the last prompt, I think a lot of focus is always put on if it just doesn't work out. But in my experience, we should also think about the reality and what if your partner dies. That was my case with my dad growing up. It was my mom and my dad, and he passed away when I was 8. So my mom was kind of left to handle the financial brunt of everything. And to this day, she absolutely has, even though I'm almost 30. But I think with that reality, and at least in my life, it's always been told.
Baby girl, why do we need to know that? Like, I mean, she's done what she's needed to do. And respect to your mother, all the respect, because my mother had to do it on her own too. Granted, you know, despite a loss in the family and all that, but that's not the point. Like, you have to pick up the pieces. It would have been behooved you to say, if your mother didn't make it, or if your mother couldn't keep her mind together, you know, she did what was proper, and I'm glad that you med it here, but you needed some more structure.
told to me because of
Like
that.
Funny Mike
that
said,
you should
structure.
always still have your own, make sure you are okay, because you're either going to leave by choice or by force is something I always say. So you're either going to choose to leave or you're going to have to be forced to go. So I think just still having your own, even in those untimely circumstances, is still super important to have.
Wait, why wouldn't you guys think it's important? I was shocked to see how you responded to the prompt, honestly.
So here's the thing. Because I'm a Christian, I look at marriage as a lifelong union. And what has happened in the West specifically is that marriage is no longer a lifelong union. Like she was saying, there's always an out where it's like, oh, I'm not happy anymore, or he did this, or she did that, or whatever it may be. And so they don't work through these hard issues. My husband and I, there's absolutely no reason I would leave him. And we have that pact with each other. And we did the work before our marriage to make sure that never happens. Now, as somebody who's in a marriage where my husband is the main provider and he works and I'm a trad wife, right? My bank account is linked with his. He pays me through his paychecks. So I think that you can set up this system to make yourself feel safer, but we just have a relationship where that's not an option for us.
Do you ladies ever feel concerned about not being financially self-sufficient? Like she mentioned, someone passing away or something that's more unexpected in that way. Maybe your husband can't work anymore, God forbid.
Take a second, guys. Do me this one favor. Drop down, give this video a like. If you can, subscribe, because it's absolutely free to you, and hit that notification bell so that you can see all the stuff I got for you. But I would love to let you guys know that there are so many securities. If you have a proper wife, that will have you and her so secured, no matter if you're going to die, if you get sick, if you catch a major disease. That is one of the things that we don't really understand about life insurance and things of that nature that can actually help you out. Everybody within the culture is a little bit afraid of all of that bureaucracy because it takes a while, and you know that's another bill where you don't get to see anything tangible from it. And I think that that's the problem here, because it's a lot more tangible than you think. But this is about the trad wives. Let's get to it.
Well, I will say that I'm not going to live in fear, because when I had a business, I mean, that it could also, through the economy, I could lose my business. And just living in fear of one day he could leave or one day he could die. I do believe in being self-sufficient. I think that's important. I think most wives learn how to be okay being alone and learning how to build certain skills through hobbies and stuff like that. So if anything were to happen, I'll be okay. But once again, it's just an investment into your life, and I'm not going to go into it fear-based or be afraid of losing it, or else I will always be looking at certain things and be like, oh, I'm going to leave because I don't know if I can handle that. Instead, I'm just going to be fully in and depend on that.
I just think doing anything in life that is worth doing is going to take risk. And so
Yes.
I think a lot of people think trad wives are dumb, like we don't think about this stuff, but we do. I have thought about, like, what if this happens? What if that happens? There's a million different scenarios that could happen, but you weigh the pros and the cons. And so for me, it isn't worth it to go put my kids in daycare so I can go get a 9-to-5 so I can stash money away for when my husband dies or when, he decides to leave me or something. Like, I would rather take the risk and have them home with me and, believe in my family instead of believing in the bad things that could happen.
And then also, too, when you do what she's saying, you're able to give the fullness to your family. She's a full mom. She's happy. She makes sure that they're cared for. Once you're there, it's no pussyfooting around. There's no one foot out the door, because then you start lacking in the things that will make that relationship great. Just telling you, because if you're always, what if this, or what if I'm waiting for this thing to happen, then you're waiting. You know what I'm saying? You're going to start fights. You're going to make things happen that ain't worth it. And I'm not talking to just the women here. I'm talking to the guys too. If you ain't sure about it, let her ass go, man. Don't be over here playing with people.
And that is just a trade-off that I think a lot of people have to choose. But I don't think it makes a woman like less respectable just because I don't have a big stash of money, in case. So that's why I did the thumbs down.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So do you think that being a traditional wife is something that's only possible because of financial privilege and not realistic for lower income households? Because we hear this a lot, like, oh, I would love to be, but I can't because, we can't afford it. Do you think it's something that do you think it's a realistic lifestyle?
I don't think it's realistic to be a trad wife for everyone. I mean, most of America who's just running on one income, like married couples, are living very close to the poverty line. And so I feel like you are all coming from maybe a very, different side of the coin. But if you were to go to most states or even other countries, if it's two parents and only one is working, like the family is suffering. I mean, that would be the ideal, and I
That's
wish
not
that
true.
most women would have that. As a matter of fact,
That is not a fact. That is actually incorrect.
just tell my friends when they're getting married, I'm like, if your husband could never financially take care of you the way you could take care of yourself, then you shouldn't be with him. So I do think you should have a partner who can provide. 1,000%. I could never be with someone who makes less money than me, for example, because like I take care of myself. But yeah, at the same time, it's not the reality.
I'm gonna hardcore disagree on that, because I think specifically in the U.S. we have this like just obsession with material things. Like every single family needs 2 cars. We need a $500,000 home. We need to buy certain food. We need designer bags, right? But when you live well below your means, you can have that life. A lot of women will ask me, they're like, how did you become a stay-at-home wife at such a young age? I'm 19. If you saw how much money we make, it's not like, I'm not privileged. I don't have a huge home. We rent, we have 1 car, we stick to an extreme budget, but the lifestyle I live is so worth that. And when I have kids, we're gonna be financially set up for me to be a stay-at-home mom and take care of those children.
I like the way Savannah answers her questions in this.
I was in a situation like yourself where I had everything and I had a lot of like a surplus of wealth and I wasn't fulfilled. Then after that situation ended, I ended up years later living in Rome. Sounds like a fairy tale. And the person I was with, almost engaged to, was a major in the military there, right?
Almost.
Wonderful person. To both of your points,
Does almost engaged really count for anything? That's like almost being in a relationship. It doesn't fucking matter. Just say what you gotta say.
and I'm so glad you guys brought this up, living in another place, it comes down to like lifestyle, right? Living in another place, I would have been like, because my skill set doesn't translate there, I would have been like a stay-at-home like wife, right? There's nothing wrong with that. My lifestyle would have been drastically different. For me personally, being fulfilled and being a team, I don't need all of like the glitz and stuff, you know what I mean? Just because I was used to that. But at the same time,
This is the one I thought it was.
like I stated, was not living out my passion and my purpose, you know, and there was other factors that played into. So I think it's totally possible. I agree with you. It just comes down to what your lifestyle is. But is it challenging here in the West? Yes. And you know, and that doesn't mean you can't like you said, you know, live more practical. Frankly, I don't care how much money I have, I'm still gonna live below my means. I don't care if I'm a billionaire, because I think that's just smart. But regarding the piece about like safety for a woman to be financially independent, I believe a woman.
She says she's gonna live above her means, even if she's a billionaire. That's crazy. That means she's gonna overspend no matter what. You need a partner for real.
Be financially independent, even if she's single. So that way, when she finds that husband, right, and she can be, because I'm also actually traditional, a helpmate to him. She's doing it for the right reasons, not because she needs to, and also because she can have a quality of partner who is better for her and better yoked with her.
I also think part of the art of being a trad wife is being frugal and being resourceful and having different little things going on, knowing how to save money. And I grew up, we did not have a lot of money. And my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and I loved it. I loved that I would come home from school and she was there. And I'd go to my friends' houses and they had nicer houses and they could do more fun things, but their mom was never there or she was gone. And I always, you know, since I was a little girl, I've just appreciated her being home and her sacrifice, because she could have worked and we could have had more money. But I love that she did that.
Thank you for sharing. And the next prompt is, I do not need a man to feel complete or fulfilled.
Now wait, I'm pretty sure everybody's gonna put their hand down, because it's not about being or needing a man to feel fulfilled. It's about being fulfilled in yourself, guys, and bringing that fulfillment to somebody else, so it's a surplus. The thing is, everybody's out here really ghetto as hell, coming out here with a damn glass empty as hell, expecting somebody to fill it up. You need to come with a full cup. And guess what? If you pour into each other, you're overflowing. That's how you really do it. A lot of y'all are out here on y'all last legs trying to get with somebody who probably is beyond their last legs and expecting somebody to fill you up. That's not really how that goes. But y'all be out here raggedy. Ooh.
Okay, anyone can speak.
I'm surprised.
Whoever feels passionate about this.
Obviously, how we're feeling and our opinions are completely shaped on our experiences. So mine, particularly because I was raised by a single mom, I think seeing the way in which she still dedicated her time to me, and she had time to do that because she was an older mom too. So I think she got to live her life to a certain point. And then she had me because I got to grow up with a woman who was able to take care of herself and allow me to experience the world as well. And she didn't have a man by her side. I actually never saw my mom date a man, like in my experience. After my dad, I think that was it for her. But because I saw that, it really always taught me that I did not need somebody else, regardless of who it is, a friend, a boyfriend, anything to make me feel fulfilled as a person. Because at the end of the day, and I hate to be so morbid, but I'm just always thinking about this, but in a positive way, we are going to go by ourselves. There's nobody else that goes with us, so you have to feel fulfilled within yourself.
Thank you.
She said what I said.
I would agree with that, actually, as somebody who got married really young, which is why I agreed with the prompt. I don't think that we're supposed to be fulfilled by other people. I think that when we have Christ in our lives and when we know ourselves, we can be fulfilled, right? Because like you said in the beginning, our purpose is to serve God and to serve others. And so my husband adds so much to my life, and my life has become significantly better since I married him. But as a person, I am fulfilled in who I am.
Question for you ladies. How has your ambition or your success and your status influenced your romantic relationships or your dating lives?
Of course.
There's a better standard. Because for me to achieve the things that I've achieved,
A better standard.
it required me to grow into the woman to do that. So now, now what I require of a man has changed. And I think that in our society, in addition to glamorizing, like, I'm a boss and all this type of stuff, I think there's also this thing that I want to disabuse while I have like this, while we're here on this platform of like, we don't need men. And I don't believe that. Like, I wanted to fulfill myself, but part of that is, I feel like we're in a society where women are like, I want a guy to make 6 figures, all of this stuff that I'm not knocking, I'm not saying it's not important, but the reason I think that you should be financially independent, fulfill yourself, is so that you can become a woman who actually is equally yoked with the kind of person that a lot of women aspire for. Not all women. So like, whatever that means to you, it's like, what are you bringing to the table, And so, yeah, for me, that's kind of my perspective on that, is like, you should, in my experience.
And she's cooked, y'all. All of that word salad that she just said almost put me to sleep. I'm going to be real with you. I'm not trying to knock her, but what she's saying is, as she's grown as a woman, she wanted more. Even though she's trying to knock it, talk about not need this and not need that. The thing is, are you going to love a person enough to know that you will change? And with those changes, you still have to love somebody. The thing is to allow yourself to understand that we're always going to grow. A lot of people think that you get with one person and you're supposed to say the exact same person. No, you go along the ride of this thing called life together. You can go through your changes, but you have to understand how to love your person correctly throughout that time. That's it. And the only thing that I see nowadays is that people are so selfish because they're so confused within themselves about what makes them happy. They can't put their self aside to make someone else happy. It's very crazy because sometimes in the process of making other people happy, you find your own happiness, or you understand what you would need to make yourself happy. I'm just saying.
I think that I was dealing with a lot of foolishness. I didn't know myself. And now what I require, and not even require, what I attract, what I entertain is better. And that has nothing to do with financial.
No, it's exactly what you said in the beginning. It's what you require now. And that's the thing. You made what would have been a simple entry in a process if you had discernment. And this is the thing that I feel like the traditional wives aren't saying to you ladies that you might need to know. If you had the proper discernment about what you wanted earlier in life, you could have made the proper choice and then been happy with it long term. But now you want to make this choice and then be able to pick another choice and sample around to see. This is to a lot of other people who don't know how to sit down and actually make a decision and live with it.
Financials, that's just a part of it. But it's just that man is out there doing his thing to get to where he was. And so we might have similar backgrounds, similar industries, whatever. But really and truthfully, it's who we had to become.
Because I hear
It's
a lot of
affected
men,
it.
I've heard a lot of men talk about this, and as beautiful as a woman may be, if she has that kind of hustle mentality or business mind or just very ambitious, they tend to not want
It
to
can be
date.
not
They tend to
attractive.
not want to date you.
A man
because-
does not care, I said this last, but a real man does not care about how much money you make. That's why I say it's for you.
Not the money, but
The mentality. Yeah,
and
I see
putting
that, and I think
consideration.
that's an issue in society. I believe you need men. Like, I believe having a husband is important. I think it's one of the wonderful things. I think even if I'm a CEO, my job is still to be a helpmate for him, and he can be a partner for me. I don't know why we feel like you can't be a housewife and have a partnership, lift that man up, support him, pray over him, clean your house, and still do your thing. Because the man that is in my life in that capacity only make all my business endeavors better.
But what if it clashes? What if you don't have time to do that for him because you have your phone ringing, you got emails
So
to
that's where
respond
it's
to?
a compromise,
Yeah.
right? Because that's what it is, a partnership. And like they said, you have to go over all these things before you get married, and you have to work together. And I do think people are so quick to walk away. And I think if you're willing to walk away, yes, your livelihood is important, but when you merge together, you have to work that out. There has to be some understanding. I don't think a woman should just sacrifice everything, but I personally wouldn't want to be with a man who would want me to do that personally.
Thank you.
And what is
Ian, do you
sacrifice?
wanna speak to
Everything.
that?
That's a better
Dating?
question.
Yeah, going back to to what you were what you read, I think it just comes down. At
Is
least
this
to
the
me,
girl from Dear White People?
it's not about finances, and I know we put so much emphasis on that, but to
She
me,
reminds me of
finances or money is all energy. So I think if you decided and you had a strong mindset and you were just super, like, business oriented, and you wanted to get to a certain plan or a goal, that energy putting towards that goal is gonna get you there. You know what I mean? So I think when it comes to dating, having a person to just support you in your big dreams, especially if you're a big dreamer, to not shut you down, to support you, to push you, to give you ideas, to give you a different avenue of looking at things in ways that maybe you don't see, or you know what I mean? So I think when it comes to dating, I think if you are with me, you're going to absolutely have to make my mind churn in ways that I probably don't, because I already have a brain that thinks really, really high. So I think I would need someone that is that way. Now, do they have to have a lot of money? Absolutely not. But do you have to have the grit, the energy to know, like, I will get there? Doesn't mean millions, doesn't mean anything. It just means being self-sufficient in that way, to be comfortable, cool, we're not worried about it.
I'm going to pose a scenario to you ladies on this side. If you were married to a very wealthy man who told you that you never had to work or lift a finger because everything is taken care of, he just wants you to focus on raising the children and managing the home, how would that make you feel? How would you respond to that?
I actually just had this happen to me not that long ago, and he did tell me that, and I said, that's really nice, but I'm still going to work.
Yeah,
Okay.
I had that happen. I declined.
Okay, what about you?
I probably still have some type of side business. Honestly, I love working. And as much as I loved getting to be there with my daughter for the first years of her life, but I'm a go-getter. I was bored. And I also think, your ambition will kind of show you as a mirror the other person and what they're thinking and how they're thinking about you. Because when I did become more ambitious and I started my first company, it started like a rift between me and my ex. He was like, oh, you have to go to work? Well, what does that mean? Like, are you going to cheat on me? Blah, blah, blah. There was all this insecurity.
I doubt that he
when
said
I started to work more. And it really didn't have anything to do with the work, because I was still going home, cooking, cleaning, doing well, not cleaning, but doing all that stuff. I don't believe in
Well,
cleaning.
you keep saying
No.
that you were bored. You were bored. I'm just wondering
She
if
nasty
you took some of
too?
that boredom and channeled it into your motherhood or channeled
I
it
don't
into
believe in cleaning.
into the home in a different way. Do you think you could have just used?
Hold up, y'all. Sorry. Why they bring her nasty ass on here? Oh my God. I was trying so hard not to talk about this damn. She came in here with the evening wear on and the Scully fit. And now, granted, I got my hair tied up too. This is, I don't know what she got going on. She says she don't believe in cleaning. God, your house dirty. If she got roaches, y'all. She got roaches.
Is it in a different way to help your family, or do you think that it needed to be something that happened outside of the home?
I think I need to build things for lots of people. I like to build for hundreds, thousands of people, and that's what I do now. So for me, it's like I was tending to the orchard every day. I had a full garden. I walked to the beach.
roaches.
I took surf lessons, did all this stuff, and I was still like, it felt for me, not for everyone, but it felt very like I'm doing this for like 3 people, and I want to build for lots of.
Now listen, she a earth girl. My boy Josh used to tell me about this. Now he's a avid churchgoer. Shout out to my boy Josh if you're watching this, because I know from time to time you do watch my episodes, man. And I don't know this man since we was children, but this is an earth girl. You gotta watch out for them. They don't cut their armpits. That's what he told me. They wafty. They got a little aroma going. They don't clean nothing. They looking crazy, and they gonna say and do the wildest things imaginable. I'm ashamed.
Of people.
Okay.
I have
Shame.
a perspective. I personally, when I have a kid, y'all not gonna see me. I'm gonna be with my kid, and it's gonna be awesome. And I think that it will bring out another side of me, and I'm excited about that.
How old
My
is
thing
she
is
now?
like the reason I declined it from the person who said that to me is I feel like they wanted to suppress me. They didn't want me to like outshine them. And so my thing is, we have a partnership. I'm probably going to step away because I want to be with my child. I'm also educated. I'll probably homeschool my child because I know the education.
As you see, what we're talking about, the mindset became selfish again and said, you think that you were going to outshine them. But as a parent, you're supposed to be coming together. Y'all supposed to shine together. See, this is the problem. Y'all don't know how to shine with somebody. Y'all don't know how to work on group projects. Y'all was those kids that didn't do nothing or try to do too much in the project and never let nobody else even be involved.
System, so these things are important. I know the responsibility, and I embrace that responsibility. I think it's all about the intention that the person's coming from. We can compromise. I am a mother. That is my priority, right? Like, I will tell you, as someone who's talked to parents quite often, and I've tried to just tell them about the progress of their child and different things. Everybody's not equipped. I'll just say that, right? And I don't want to be that. I want to be there for them, and I want them to know I'm there for them. But long term, if you just don't want me to do anything ever, that's where I personally have an issue. But having a compromise and making it a priority, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay. Who feels passionate about this? Go ahead.
I think that intention and perception is so much in this topic because I think there's a lot of jobs I could go to and I would be so bored. I could be making money, I could be like building things, I'd be so bored. But at home, I think I see my kids. I don't just see the 2 or 3 of them. I see like the generations that come after them. And I've tailored it to where it is challenging, to where I am homeschooling, to where I just make it exciting because I put all my passion into it. And I think that can be said for different jobs and different lifestyles at home. Just kind of depends on how you feel about it and what your perception is.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. Anyone else? Did you want to say something?
I was going to comment on the men part because I think the right man won't care if you're working or not. Like when I first met my husband, I was competing in pageants. I had a business. I was working full time at a law firm, and he loved everything about me when I was doing those things, right? But once we got married and I was actually able to stop working, I told him I don't want to work anymore, and he was happy with that too. And actually me not working has helped our marriage than when I was working because he's in his role and I'm in my role. So I just think that you have to have the right man who's, you know, when you start out dating him, he's not going to be insecure by the businesses you're building or what you're doing. But then when you're like, no, I just want to stay home and have kids, he's perfectly okay with that too.
Yeah, and I think it's important to have that conversation well before you get married. I know you told him after you're married, but I think it's important for that to be something that you know before going in, so that they can say, well, I can't do that. I don't want that, or I would love for you to do that,
prepared.
and not just have it sprung up on someone.
But at the same
as well. I
time,
think that's important.
And
if you
personally, I
going into
wanted,
it,
when
you
I was
should
dating,
know.
I wanted to find someone who wanted me to be home with our kids. That was important for me as like a father. And so, yeah, I think talking about that beforehand is.
I totally get to why a man would want that. Like, I don't think that's weird. I think in society we like, even though that might not be where I'm at right now, I think we need to stop making that a weird thing. To me, making that weird is weird.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just saying, like, he
That's
needs
a
help.
fact.
Like, it's
No, no,
you're a helpmate. Like,
you're
what's wrong
right.
with you? Like, how is he gonna clean the house? You want 6 figures, but you also want to work. It's like, come on, like, let's be realistic.
I just wanted to say that when we do look at statistics, though, women are filing for divorce at a much higher rate. And then also, if you're a working woman, you're an educated woman, it's like rises up to 90%.
Yes.
So I
These are
once
facts.
was a boss babe, but just kind of hearing what you kind of were saying was that I had to kind of give that up because I was competing so much with my husband, and I was carrying these masculine traits where it's like he's trying to like. He's in his role, but I'm almost like trying to outscore him, and I'm like, oh, you know, I'm having leadership qualities basically now, and it was instead of what I think a partnership is that you come into a more submissive role and you let him lead. Now I'm actually butting heads with him and leading, and what will happen is you end up leaving because it's like I can do better. You know, I can do better than what you're doing, and you end up, you know, filing for divorce. You're not doing enough. You're not doing as much. Where before I think he was just fine. Now I'm out trying to actually outscore him. So I just kind of wanted to add my kind of 2 cents on that.
Thank you. Modern feminism has failed women.
What do y'all feel about that answer right there? Hold on.
Out trying to actually outscore him. So I just kind of wanted to add my kind of 2 cents on that.
What do you guys think about that? Do you feel like it's the mindset of, okay, I got X, Y, Z going on for me? Or let me put it like this. Do you feel like after a woman learns you, and this is all to you guys, please drop down in these comments to let me know about this one. Do you feel like after she learns you and she has that, after she feel like she learns you and she has that masculine tendency, do you feel like she goes around and just swinging her own, like, do you feel like they go about saying that I can do better than you, I have better plans, or I can do this faster than you can? Because it seems like that, because everybody's so selfish. If they see what you got going on, instead of being like, okay, well, I know how I can nurture this situation and make it spread in a different way, they're like, okay, well, I can take what you're doing and do it myself, and I can do better on my own. Believe me, that's not how you're going to make it. Listen, I just made it to affiliate on Twitch yesterday, thanks to a good man called Unc. Never met him a day in my life, but we're going to make sure we get an interview with him because this man is changing people's lives. He changed my life in an instant, and I'm happy for it. And like I'm saying, I'm not doing it myself. I've been working for almost 2 years straight trying to get you guys this content, and nobody wasn't paying attention. But another content creator saw me, saw what I was doing, wanted to support, and we made affiliate, y'all. So that's the thing here too, that we have to understand how to support one another so that we can actually succeed. Like she was saying before, if you want 6 figures and all that, what are you doing to help make that happen? It doesn't happen. Like Kevin Hart, he didn't come up by himself. He has a whole studio. There's people that work for him and work with him. He ain't doing it by himself. No billionaire. Mark Zuckerberg, even though he screwed people over, he still has many people that are paid by him today that make that Facebook-ish work, that make Meta work. All right, y'all, let's keep it popping.
Thank you. Modern feminism has failed women more than it has helped them.
This part.
I think that the first wave of feminism was great. I mean, we get to vote, we can have property. You're not, super reliant on a man. Like before, it was like shamed in society if you were alone. But I think the sexual revolution is what really has not just hurt our men, to be honest, it actually has hurt our men, but us too as women. I don't think it's liberating. We see a lot of single mother households. Women aren't waiting till marriage anymore. I think that's what protected us, actually. So it actually protected us. I'm not saying that marriage, you can't get into a bad situation, but I think you're more secured than going into hookup culture, sleeping with a guy one night because you want to be equal to men. Men can do it without shame, so we shouldn't have shame. I think that was ridiculous because men should be shamed too for going out and just sleeping with people. And I also think that the sexual revolution opened up women to actually there's predators. There are narcissistic men, sociopathic men that actually go out, and that's their mating strategy, is going to these nightclubs where women are partially drunk or whatever, and they're going home with them or taking them home. And so I think actually it put us in danger. And so I do think it's failed women in that way.
I agree. I think feminism has hurt women so badly. And I think just focusing on economically, it's like we're talking about how you need to have a 2-income household to make it work. And I think that's because of feminism. I think before, people used to be able to live off one income.
See, so that there, because when you fight for opportunities and things that would allow you to work alone or match that salary, it makes it so that they have to match the policies to represent that, which makes it harder for people to actually live by themselves because we are made to support families. The systems are made to support families. Why do you get tax breaks for marriage? Why are there more incentives for insurances for marriages? We are not a society built upon being by yourself. Not at all.
Comfortably, and now it has become, and I actually think that hurts women in abusive relationships too, because it's hard to leave because they're gonna have one income. So I just think it's awful all the way around. I think it's.
So is there any part of modern feminism that you agree with?
No, honestly, no. And that might sound crazy, but I think it has become so tainted and it has hurt so many people. I don't like any of it.
I think we equate feminism now as a society of like we don't need men, and it actually demasculates men a lot.
That is exactly what feminism is now. It's nothing but that.
With that, I think that, and then there's also this concept of like, well, instead of men exploiting us, we're gonna exploit ourselves. I'm like, yeah, because that makes sense. And there's this thing of with woke culture that's intertwined with feminism now, modern feminism, because by definition, being a feminist just means equality for the sexes. But now there's all this other extra context to it that no one talks about unless you're gonna get canceled. And I think it even went so crazy in a weird way that it made it to women themselves are oppressed by ourselves. And no one wants to talk about it. And I, as someone that works with children, I see young girls, and I see a 10-year-old girl, and she has on lashes and is dressing provocatively with nails, and it's like, well, she's just in the culture. Like, that's not. I don't think that is okay, and I do think it puts our young ladies.
The problem with it is you as her counselor are sitting there with the lashes on, because at first I was trying to see when you said the lashes. I had to look hard. You got on lashes and you got on the nails. They are seeing the representation that is placed in front of them. You can't be over there talking about I support girls, but then you're showing them who you are and expecting them not to try to represent themselves the same. And I want to see, where was it where these eyelashes really came from that had people thinking that this was the wave, bro? Because I feel like it wasn't a good place.
At risk, for sure. And we do need men.
You look at studies that are done, and women's happiness has just tanked. Like, we are more unhappy than we've ever been. Yeah. Something isn't right, and I think it's because we are trying to be men, and it doesn't work, and it's not happy, and nobody really wants to be men. We want to be women.
Especially, I mean, especially replicated entertainment. Like there's this whole concept of like, I'm gonna use a man, and it's like hyper masculine, but it's also hyper sexualized. And I just know from like a historical context, as a history teacher, and then being African American, all of that is like by design, and it's very
To break
oppressive,
up the family.
and it's made.
See, she's smart right here because this is the agenda that they're trying to push. And if you guys aren't seeing it, you are missing the hell out. This is why I push this type of content, and this is exactly why you need to hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell, because if you are blind to this, you are going to miss out. And it's not going to be just you. It's going to be your kids, your grandkids, and then your great grandkids. Because if you keep building broken homes, broken things can only build broken things. You have to fix yourself. Okay. You have to have a stable self. And then the beautiful thing about it, even if you are broken, there is a Chinese culture that repairs broken things with gold. You need to be like that. Mend yourself with the golden things, not with silly shit like rot that's going to have you broken once again. Okay? You can melt that gold up and put yourself back together and be golden. All right, y'all. I'm going to let her rock, though, because she is saying something true.
Even if you look at like the system of like how you could get government support, the man had to be out of the household just to get government support.
Yep.
So all of this imagery, like I'm just going to use a man with my body.
And that's what she's talking about, is for welfare and child support.
We need to start pushing back on that no matter what side of the aisle you're on, if you know it's not right, because it's not right.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very Western way of looking at it. I think we have one part of modern society, and why I wouldn't be a trad wife today is just because I feel like trad wives, what they think.
I would love to hear the many societies where that was not the case, and it was extremely successful to the point where they have an empire that has lasted till today.
Be in what Americans think they need to be, and my family is not from this country. It's just like the women take care of everything, and I'm like, okay, so then when do you have time to have fun with your husband, or like even sleep with your husband if you're like cooking, cleaning, and taking care of the kids all day, rather than like a community structure where you have people who can step in and help you and be a part, you know, of everything. That to me seems way more traditional than the way it is now, where I just feel like women are just run into the ground. And obviously, I mean, you guys are kind of privileged and you can have a one-income household, but like a lot of women I know, they don't work out, they don't take care of themselves, and they are in a traditional role. And to me, I'm just like, you're a slave.
What country are you from?
Oh, my family's from Panama.
Panama, yes. I do know in other countries there is more of a community lifestyle, so they are able to have more help and be able to take care of these things because they have more hands. So I do understand that.
I would respectfully disagree. I think that there's a lot of housewives who they work with their partner. They work out with their partner, you know, and they have. So I know like a
Keep your
long time
schedule
ago
together.
that was like
Time
the model, but I
management.
think that we've surpassed that, and it just comes down to each individual relationship. But I definitely think, you know, again, my partner like would never, you know, want me to just run myself in the ground. You know, when they
Where's
see
your
I'm
partner?
like losing gas, it's like, okay, let me step up. But at the same time, I still have no problem being like, yeah, he's a leader, and he leads me in being a boss. So that's just my opinion.
Do you feel like modern feminism maybe drew you into becoming a traditional wife?
Yes, because I wanted to rebel against the culture. And the culture told me from such a young age, I mean, from the age of 14, I was told to get on birth control for my hormonal issues, right? So I wasn't even having the normal process of a woman. Then from high school on, I was told, go get a
Savannah is
degree.
buff,
And
yo.
you're
You
smart
see her
enough to get a
shoulder?
master's degree. Then you need to go get a job. Then maybe get married like 26, 27, then have kids at 32. That's what was just shoved down my throat. And then I was like, no, I'm not doing any of this. I met my husband. I was like, I want to marry you. I mean, you're the man that I've always prayed for. And then I've rebelled against the culture. So that's why it's definitely a huge factor of why I chose this lifestyle.
What about it made it feel like it wasn't for you? What people were saying to do?
It's so against the natural female body. It didn't make sense to me that we were waiting until our late 30s to have children when that's not the prime years of childbirth. It didn't make sense to me that I needed to go get a degree and go work myself into the ground, make $35K a year, have my boss flirt with me, and then end up quitting the job to get married and have kids one day. So yeah, I didn't agree with it at all.
Like, why go through all that?
Yeah.
I agree. I actually did everything that modern feminism told me to do. Like, I made a lot of money. I went to college, have debt, all of it. And then I got with my husband, and I thought that I was supposed to be just independent. Then, you know, I was also trained to be like very independent. In case you leave me, in case you abandon me, I need to have money stored away. And it caused so many issues in my marriage. And I was like, well, why can't I just apply my skills and work for you? Honestly, because I don't actually really agree with like some women just being at home and not doing anything. I believe in the Proverbs 31 woman where she actually adds to her husband in any way. You're not just leaving him, especially if he's financially crumbling. You help in some type of way, but you're doing it for you guys, not for yourself. That's
For
why I
your
believe when I
family that you
realized
created,
me
yes.
just chasing after all this money and everything, at the end of the day, I don't want to be in a mansion, a big house alone. When I'm 80 years old, I want my children, my grandchildren all around me, and I'd rather have a small house or a medium house, but with love in it, than just chasing after money and being a boss, but being alone at the end. It's not purposeful and meaningful for me. So,
And that's really fulfilling. See, there's some things that you have to do with sacrifice. You have to sacrifice, just like with this. I sacrificed my time to bring you guys this content. You got to sacrifice something that, okay, you might have no more time at the club. So what? You're not wasting money on drinks. You don't have to buy the newest, hottest dress just to go out for random strangers to think that you look good for one night. Only because they probably want to slap some cheeks, because that's what most people are going to the club for. I mean, it's just really thinking about things long term. Like, I don't even like the club, but I'll go for, for the local turn up, but that's only for the celebration of somebody else. I'm not in there just for the fun of it. Like, I don't know how you think you're going to find the one there. If you find the one at the club, that's not going to be the one for long.
I steered away from modern feminism. I said I'm going to go this route instead.
Game of Thrones King's Road is now available on both PC and mobile with Google Play.
Thank you. If I had to choose, I would give up my career for love and family.
She a lie. I think,
Okay, so
Earth
can
Girl
you
is lying.
explain your reasoning for that?
I think maybe I would just need more elaboration. When you say love, are we talking about romantic love?
Yes.
Would I give up my career for romantic love? Well, just
And family.
And family.
Like, let's say you had
future
children.
family, but not
Yeah.
my family right now.
Let's say you had children.
Okay. If I had children, would I give up that for my career?
If you're married and your husband says, now that you're
She's
pregnant,
scratching. She's
I would like for you to
the idea is so foreign to her that it's itching. It's literally making her skin crawl. She's like trying to dissect it in every other way because it doesn't compute. And I'm not trying to go at you, baby girl, but you need to do some inner work, because this is going to affect you trying to get a long-term relationship, because you're fighting what would have been a simple answer not 20 years ago.
stay home, give up your career, and take care of this child and me. Would you give up your career for love and family?
Okay. Can I explain?
Okay, sure.
I feel like I have the kind of career where I can do both. And if it really came down to it, would be a natural integration. Like, I make content. I'm a video editor. I can literally do all of that from the comfort of my own home. So
What if you couldn't? That's the question.
If I couldn't,
One or the other.
Exactly. If you had to give it
We can come
up.
back to you.
please come back to me.
Okay. Anyone want to answer that?
I think because I became a mom young and because I had a family young, I don't regret anything. I'm probably the oldest person on this stage, but I would not give up like having the family and my daughter. Like if it was like you had to choose her or you had to choose starting this business, I would always choose her. Like, it's so fulfilling. But I would say it's equally as fulfilling as a business, but she's still much better.
I would say for sure family. I mean, I was a little reluctant, but overall, just the kind of person I am, family for sure. Because, I reached a lot of milestones, and I'm okay because of the season I was in. But, to your point, it's like, what does all that mean if there's no one to share it with? And all of these things are superficial things. Me, I have a kingdom calling, as we all do. So that's what kind of time I'm on, right? But my family, even in word, surpasses that, right? And so pouring into them, making sure that they're good, that's a
But it's funny that they were so reluctant. It's clear that this is going to be a hard struggle. And none of them are ugly women in any sort of the case. I'm not saying that. They're not unattractive, but that's also the issue. Your attractiveness is what is allowing you to think that you have this infinite amount of time to keep making bad decisions, and that's not the case.
that's a privilege. Yeah, for sure.
Did you want to speak on that?
Yeah, honestly, I think just maybe if you ask me that in a couple more years, maybe I'll have a different answer. But because I don't have children, and I know being a mom, like I have a mom, she's the best mom, and I know that something does biologically click in your mind when you have a kid. I don't have that click, so I don't really know if, I can't say at this moment I don't have a kid, but absolutely if I had a child, I would pick my kid. I have a dog, I pick my dog a lot of the time.
But not for love.
Not at this moment, not for love, no. You would have to
See, the problem is, though, that your child is an extension of your love, and that's the problem, and why so many kids feel like they're not loved, because they have to go through sitting through the situation of, well, mommy, why didn't you love daddy enough to stay? Then they have to grow up and figure out, well, will I love somebody enough to want to stay with them? These are also lessons that we are teaching our children. So that's why it is incredibly important to pick the right person to even start a family with, because I would dread in my life somebody who doesn't even think that I'm important enough to consider, but a child is that we make together. Because that just means that you don't love my child all the time. You really just love your career more than you even love the child, because the child is, again, an extension of the love that we create. So if you're just so obsessed with yourself, you're only saying that you want the kid because it's an extension of you, then.
really convince me.
Selfish.
Are we the only ones with children? Does anyone else have kids? Okay.
Yeah, I don't have kids either.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone want to speak on that?
I have a question. Do you guys think at all that a lot of women that choose career and are moving away from the trad wife, they don't want to be a trad wife? Do you think that's like fear-based? I'm afraid of a man leaving me, abusing me. Do you think that those decisions are mostly fear-based decisions?
Yeah, a lot of women that I hear, especially because I did do it kind of opposite and have the kids in the trad wife life first, they just were super, super self-reliant, and that's why they started to be a boss babe. Like, they saw their mom be a single mom, and they were like, I'm not gonna ever have that happen to me. Or they grew up super poor, and they were like, I'm not gonna have that happen to me. And that's the entire reason behind it. It doesn't come from like wanting to build something. Whereas me, I'm like, I'm a mom, and I want to build because I've experienced, like this child and all, like the world I want to see for her. But it's very opposite, and I think they also don't think they can have both.
Yeah,
But she
I
said it
was
was
gonna
too
say, I disagree.
confusing.
I'm glad you put that caveat, because I think a lot of women, that's at least was the deal with me. I felt like, no, I can't have a family right now. Like, I can't have this career right now. And I was like, I'm an educator, I have businesses, but I'm also an actor, right? So I had all these goals. And one of the goals, for example, was like, I want to be in a movie in theaters. And like, I will be the first to say, like, when it happened, I was not as fulfilled as I thought. I'm very proud. I have no regrets necessarily. But I think that a lot of things, that's just a small example, but like a lot of things I look back and I'm like, yeah, you could have done both, but society sometimes.
Yeah, see, and that's the problem right there. You put off stuff for what you said, superficial things. And this is the issue that I have, and this is why I put on that Jordan Peterson conversation, because these older women are telling you things that don't make any sense. She said that she went ahead and chose career over her family, and she's not fulfilled. It was a momentary, oh yes, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm not even doing this stuff, like this recording and all of this. This is so that way I can get my mother into a farm that she wanted, because that will fulfill her. You get what I'm saying? So that way the family could come over, because that's what real fulfillment is. I do this so that way I can make my family grow too. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not doing this just so I can be talking all the time and talking ish. No, man, this is deeper than that. And the thing about it is, I know that my family is going to be really, really somebody to mess with once it's all said and done, y'all. Like, this is not a joke.
Times says it makes you feel like you have to choose. So I wasn't like as scared I was going to be abused or anything. I just thought like if I get married or something like that, I can't happen. I think we honestly don't give men enough credit because, again, the right man, a God-fearing man, he can be a leader, you can be his helpmate, and he's still going to want to see you win and build you up.
Thank you. Do any of you ladies on this side think that by giving up your own ambitions could ever lead to resentment down the line if your husband is continuing to pursue his?
I would just say that my desires changed. So I used to say a prayer of like, God, make me more selfless, because I was choosing a lot of things of like my own personal fulfillment, and my desires just changed, that I love seeing us good and happy and thriving and that we're working together. And that just changed for me because my prayers changed. Instead of self-fulfillment, it was for us. So my ambitions are whatever we are working towards.
Yeah.
You go ahead.
And I'll add to that. I'm very entrepreneurial. I started my first business at 15. So like when I met my husband, when we first started dating, I had that mindset. And I would pray the same prayer. I'd be like, God, take these masculine qualities away from me. I have this mindset, but now I'm putting it into my marriage. I'm helping my husband build his business. I have so many ideas for him, and I'm helping him build that business because that's going to be our business and it's going to be our family business, even though he's running it. But I think that you can take all of those traits and put them into your marriage to be his helpmate.
Thank you.
I was just going to say, like, your ambitions change. And so it's not, I never felt like my ambitions went away and I have to focus on my family. It's like, as soon as my baby was born, I was like, oh, you're my ambition, making sure you're, great. That's what I want for you. And so that, I'm sure the other things are still there, but they're not
became the
nearly
main page,
as
though. Because
I don't
you
have
got to
as much passion
foster
about
your
those things.
your
Yeah, I think
your
society
legacy,
can sometimes
you know?
make you feel, as a woman,
A
that
legacy
if you're
gotta be
not
nurtured,
in some
man.
great career and you have all these things that you're like
Blowing up
wasting
right
your
now.
life, like what are you doing? And I think that can happen to a lot of women to make them feel like, oh, I have to have this kind of a job. I have to go to college. I have to do these things because then who am I? And people can sometimes make you feel like that when they speak to you and they ask you, what do you do? And so I think it is very difficult, I think, for women to understand why they're doing even what they're doing, unless they really reflect and think about it. And the final prompt is, there is no one right way to be a woman.
That's an interesting question.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Well, anyone can speak.
I want to hear from them.
I'm shocked again. I mean, so I said disagree because I think there is a right way to be a woman, and I don't think it's trad wife or boss babe, but I think it's a woman of God. I think God called us to serve him and to nurture the world and to serve other people, whether that's with your family, whether that's with building a business or, teaching children, whatever it may be. I think women have such a specific gift that was given to them from God, and it would be a shame for us not to use that in the right way.
I think when you put it like that, I can agree. But if we're adding on to like having children or something like that, I would disagree. Only for the case of women that cannot have children.
You're 100% right, and
That
I
would
would
be the
agree
only
with you
thing.
on that because people can ask the question, well, why am I infertile if our highest calling is to have children? Well, God may have done that for a reason.
Exactly.
And
I
we
agree.
can't discredit them and their womanhood because of that.
That's why.
but we can't make that the standard either, that you're so hyper focused on the people that aren't able to make children. Are you somebody who is unable to make children? See, the problem is you haven't even seen. And then if you wait until the time that you're at geriatric pregnancy, of course you can't have kids because you waited too long. And that's the issue that we have today. You're so afraid, like the young lady is saying too, it's like you, at the end of the day, with anything, you create a business, you go fall in love, and you shouldn't even fall in love, or you get into a loving relationship, you are taking some type of risk. You don't know where that person's mind will always be. You can only hope that you've had the conversation that these lovely traditional wives have had with their husbands, and you are secure enough in your relationship that you know that there's no issue for the rest of your natural born life. But let's see what they got to say, and let's end this thing off good. But I really want you guys to drop down in these comments because I want to see what you guys think about these topics. How did you feel? What made you click? And let's talk about each and everything individually.
I agree. I would think that there's not one right way to be a woman.
Well, what do you think about the women who just don't want them? Like the women, like the childless TikToks. Have you seen them? They come up for me and I have no idea why, because I love being a mom. But I always see them. What do you ladies think of those women who are like anti-children and trying to also spread that to other women?
Yeah, I think it's just very toxic, because I don't have a problem with someone not wanting to be married or have a child. My problem is, how are you helping society? If you're going out and you're just sleeping with random men and all this other stuff, you're polluting and making society worse. So I think the right way to be a man or a woman is, how are we helping society as a whole, instead of so selfish and focus on what's good for me. That's I think the right way to be a man and a woman.
I think people who like hate children, man or woman, I think you're wrong. You are living womanhood the wrong way. You are living manhood the wrong way. I think there's something wrong with people who don't like children. People who putting people who are infertile in the same crowd as those people, I think is so. I think a lot of people do that. I'm not saying you guys did, but I think a lot of people do that, and I think people who can't have kids are every bit as woman as me or you or anyone. But I think a right way to be a woman is to be a woman, and that is kind of almost like an unpopular thing to say now. Again, I think we all are kind of almost brainwashed from a young age to try and be like men. And I think if you can let go of that and be a woman, whether you have kids, whether you don't, whether you work, whether you don't, I think that's the right way to be a woman.
I have a question for you guys, actually. Do you think that being a boss babe, though, like working, especially working hard, trying to be a CEO, is being kind of like a man at all? Do you believe that at all?
I think it depends on which way you're building. Like I said, men have built this world that women are trying to fit themselves into. And so I think, women can definitely build a different world, because I do think we need to make things for other women. I don't think we can just leave every industry to the men. I think women have such valuable input. So I think we just need to do it a different way and interject our femininity into all of these spaces that need femininity, like women's health, for example. Like, we have to be in there somehow, right?
Do you think, just to piggyback off that question, that a woman could do that like behind her husband or behind a man? Like, if your husband is an entrepreneur and he's like, "Hun, what do you think I should? What do you think?"
Well, I don't like the way she proposed that. Behind a man instead of with your man would have been a better way to put it in my mind. But I get what she's saying. It's like, have your career while with your relationship. At least that's what I'm thinking.
I should do. Well, why don't you do this for women? Women need this. And instead of being the one to do it, whatever man you're connected to, helping empower them to know what the issues are and to fight for them.
Well, I like to buy things from other women if they're made for women specifically. So I love to see women-founded companies, but I also love Ballerina Farm, which everyone calls her a trad wife, but I'm like, she's a boss babe. She's got like 8 kids and 1 on the way, and her husband have this amazing company together. But I think that there's a way to build with a man, build with your husband, or build things in a way that just look different than maybe like the girl boss early 2000s era did it.
I was just watching a sermon actually the other day where the pastor was talking about, your single season is actually one of the most beautiful seasons because it allows you to have the most time with God, as opposed to having other people or other things that may take away from that. And I think at that point, if there are other people, I think it's about being a little bit more intentional about your time with God. But I think for me right now in my single season, it's really me and God for real. So I would say it creates way more time.
It sounds interesting, because you would think you would have less time for that if you're running a business. And how are you going to make Thursday night Bible study if you have to work late and you have to give your kids dinner? Like, how are you able to? And that doesn't mean that that's the only way to make time for God. It's a personal thing. But in terms of some of the things that you're actively doing.
Yeah, well, Jesus was outside with it. He was outside. He was touching people. He was out with the people. And so for me, my business and the things I do, like, I'm an activist. I'm also like an influencer in some regards, but I work with like anything from the Children's Institute, or not even listed, but I do feel like I'm doing God's work. And I've become, before, I didn't even know, like, the thing of the influencer came around as that happened, and it kind of just naturally merged with my role as an entertainer, so I just built this platform. But me doing the work, I've been an activist since I was like 17. So me just wanting to fulfill my kingdom calling, God literally putting these desires in my heart, like the Bible says God gives you the desires of your heart. People think he's going to give you material things. No, the things that you want to do, your talents, the things that are pulling on you, that's God. And the things that pull on me are helping people around the world in a variety of ways. And so for me, that was one of the things that actually in both those situations, when I was almost engaged in Europe and when I was in my previous marital situation, well, I said, I'm not standing up to my kingdom calling. I got to step out of this. I'm not standing up to my kingdom calling. So I wholeheartedly disagree with that. And I'll just close by saying, I think that when you are in your calling, you will attract someone who is equally yoked. And
I really hope that the other wives, the trad wives, like piggyback on this, because why you couldn't get yourself functioning within that relationship. You felt so far, and it's a little selfish, and y'all can take it how y'all feel. I could be wrong. Probably not. But you could have taken your time, found the issue, seen if there was a root connection, because you're not talking about what the actual issue is, so that way there would have been resolution.
The right person, God will be, my prayer was, God, if he's not my husband, remove him. Remove him. Reveal it and remove it. And then when you get that person, continuously praying, God, be at the center of this. So I think it pulls you closer to God, because you have to learn to worship the Creator and not the created.
Thank you for sharing that. I've heard a lot of people talk about like the Proverbs 31 woman and kind of talk about how she was a boss and she was this and she was that. And it almost kind of seemed like unless a woman could identify herself as a boss, then she wasn't important. It's like, well, what if she wasn't a boss? What if she was just a woman doing what she was supposed to do? Like that label somehow gave a woman some sort of empowerment that she could not have just being
Herself.
a wife who's also supportive.
Well, that's why I
Yes.
don't subscribe to like this thing, this zeitgeist of like you have to be flashy and that makes you a boss. Like whether you're a entrepreneur or you're a housewife, posting a bag doesn't, like, I'm not knocking it, but that doesn't make you a boss. I think how many lives can you positively impact? You know, I think that just doing the work actually makes you a boss. And the Bible, you know, I know for a fact God has a covering on me because I do my part, and then he just goes ham. You know what I mean? But I think that if you go back to the word again, God provides you provision for your assignment. So it really has nothing to do with you. So I try not to center myself in my blessings. I have an awareness of my calling, and I know that I'm provided for, and I get certain opportunities and resources because of that. But I don't think that the money is what makes me a boss. I think the impact is what it makes me a boss, as I said before. And the money is just a side effect of doing the work, married or unmarried.
I think that I don't think you're further away from God or closer to God whether you're married or not. But the beautiful thing about marriage is it's the only relationship that exemplifies Christ's relationship with us. So when you are married and you have Christ at the center of your relationship, you're actually able to witness to the world more because we submit to Christ and Christ laid down his life for us, just as the wife submits to the husband and the husband would lay down his life for the wife. So it is literally the only relationship in the world that exemplifies Christ, and that's why it's so beautiful. And that's why when people say they get married, they feel closer to God because you are literally exemplifying God with your relationship.
And it requires you.
How do y'all feel about that statement? Do you feel like you're closer to God? I think that she said it in an eloquent way. I don't know if that's per se true, but it's very close to.
It requires more of you, like with your situation, right? Like it required you to let go of a certain mindset, I think, and grew you
Selfless.
into, I would assume, what you would probably think like a better version of yourself, right? Talking to you.
Oh,
Savannah.
yeah.
Yeah, right?
Oh, yeah, selfless.
Yeah.
You become holier, not happier. I think with
Ooh, I
a
love
lot
that.
of the boss babe movement, which I love that we're talking about God, though, and you ladies are beautiful in how you guys express your love for Jesus. But it made me holier. And I thought, when I went into it, I thought I was supposed to be happier. And so I did feel closer to God, having to break free of all of these selfish ambitions being married.
Hedonistic mindset.
Yes,
Being
marriage
holier
does-
is better than
does
being
sanctify
happier.
you a lot
Facts.
faster.
Yes, it does.
Thank you, ladies, again for being here today and sharing your stories and your.
All right, guys, that's been our episode today. I hope you learned something today, and I hope that you take away the fact that, the world may be messed up, but we can come back to this if you set aside yourself and think about the bigger picture. At the end of the day, if you really want to succeed, you're going to have to do this with somebody by your side. It might be one, it might be more, like the young lady wanted to talk about community. But at the end of the day, you can't get out this life alone. You have to live this life amongst the people. So make sure you're doing it correct. And I liked what they said. Don't worry about happiness. Be holier, not happier. And as always, my good people, live as long as you want. Never want as long as you live, and always squeeze the best juice out of life. And if you can for me, like this video. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and hit that notification bell, because it lets you get updated whenever I got some new stuff coming out. And believe me, I got some bangers coming through, because guess what? We on that train and we got that motion. This is your boy Juice. This is The Squeeze, and we out. Peace.